Hello there. My name is Wendy Thomas. I am 29 years old, and my life is built around taking care of others. I work as a nurse in a busy hospital, wearing my blue scrubs and walking the halls every day to help people feel better. But today, I have a very personal story to share with you. It is a story about a very dark time in my life, a moment when I was completely helpless. It begins in a cold hospital room where the only sound was the steady beep, beep, beep of a machine. I was lying in a hospital bed, lost in a very deep sleep called a coma. I couldn't breathe on my own, so there were plastic tubes in my throat doing the work for me. My heart was still beating, but it was moving very slowly, like it was tired of trying. In that room, my father stood by my side, but he wasn't there to hold my hand or pray for me. He looked at the doctor and said, "Just let her go. We are not going to pay for that surgery." He said those words so calmly, like he was just telling a clerk to cancel a magazine he didn't want to read anymore. There was no sadness in his eyes, and his hands did not shake as he spoke. At exactly 18 minutes after 11 on a Tuesday night, he picked up a pen and signed a piece of paper. That paper told the doctors not to try and save my life if my heart stopped beating. He didn't sign it because the doctors said I was too sick to get better. He signed it because the people who handle the hospital's money told him how much the bill would be. That was all it took, a simple number on a page, for him to decide I wasn't worth saving. When I finally woke up 3 weeks later, my body was covered in blue and purple bruises. I felt like every bone was broken. I couldn't even lift my head off the flat pillow. But then I found out that the paper he signed was not even the meanest thing he did while I was asleep. What I did in the next 24 hours after finding out the truth did more than just change my life. It made his whole world fall apart. He never saw it coming because he forgot one very important thing about me. Before I tell you the rest, if you feel a connection to this story, please stay with me and keep listening. Let me take you back to 7 months before all of this happened. It was the day my grandmother passed away, and it was when everything started to go wrong. I was born with a little hole in my heart. The doctors used very big, scary medical words for it, but to put it simply, my heart just didn't work the way it should. When I was only 4 years old, the doctors had to do a very big surgery on my chest to fix that hole. It took 11 long hours, and it cost my parents a huge amount of money. For the next 20 years, they never stopped talking about that bill. My mother eventually stopped bringing it up, but my father never did. He carried that bill in his mind like a heavy rock. "Wendy, do you have any idea how much money you have cost this family?" He told me that for the first time when I was only 8 years old, all I had done was ask for a new pair of shoes. My old ones had a big crack in the bottom, and every time I walked to school in the rain, my socks would get soaking wet and cold. He was sitting at our old kitchen table with a giant pile of white papers and bills in front of him. He didn't even look up at me. He just said, $214,000. That is what you cost us. I did not get those new shoes. By the time I turned 12, I simply stopped asking for anything at all. I didn't want to hear that number again. By the time I was 15, I was working as a babysitter for 3 different families on our street. I worked late into the evening just so I could buy my own notebooks, pens, and clothes for school. When I turned 18, I had to sign for a big loan to go to college all by myself. At the very same time, my older sister, Meredith, was packing her bags for a big university. My parents were paying for every single thing for her books, her room, and her food. Nobody in the family thought this was strange except for me. Meredith got her own shiny car when she was 16, but I had to wait in the cold for the bus to take me everywhere. Meredith had her school paid for, while I was starting my life with a mountain of debt. Meredith got fancy dinners at expensive restaurants for her birthday, but for mine, I just got a simple cake made from a box and a card that only my mother signed. The saddest part of it all is that I just accepted it. It is hard to explain now that I am older, but back then I wasn't even angry. I really believed him. I believed that I owed my parents for being born with a heart that needed fixing. My father said it so many times, "You cost this family everything," that the debt felt as real to me as the long, thin scar on my chest. I carried that heavy feeling with me every single day, just like I carried my nurse's badge at work. The only person in my whole life who never mentioned that money was my grandmother, Lillian. She lived all by herself in a cozy little brick house on Elm Street. It was a small, warm place with 2 bedrooms and a wooden porch swing that made a little creaky noise when the wind blew through the trees. She had lived in that house for 41 years.